So I'm Grégoire. I will speak about eTests, which is a software for formative evaluation using multiple choice questions on internet. So here is the context. It started in January 2008. I was teaching assistants in biostatistics at the University of Namur here in Belgium, in the French part. And as a PhD student, I tried to study didactics of statistics. So the way we have to teach the statistics to students, and one of our goals was to detect the difficult task, the tasks which are difficult for the students, and we used multiple choice questions for that. So we had some requirement for this project. We wanted to put the questions online. We want a version control system to track the modifications by the different teachers on the questions. We want to share the questions between courses, and the copy-paste is not an option for sharing. We want to control the access to the questions. Sometimes we want to put them for, free on the internet, and sometimes we want to check the access from the user based on login password or IPs. And a strange stuff we didn't see any, elsewhere, we want sometimes to have more than one user authenticated on a single browser. Why? Because I don't know in your country, but in my university I have some labs, for example, there are 10 computers, I have 25 students, so I must allow the 25 students to use the 10 computers. So there must be 2 or 3 in front of the screen and have to record their answer on their own sessions at the same time. We also wanted to provide sometimes the question on screen and sometimes on paper. Some papers, the students receive the paper with the question printed on it, and just have to record the answers. And like it's for formative evaluation, we want to instant feedback to students and global answer analysis for teacher. So I will not detail all the options, but I will focus my presentation on main concepts. The first one is when we check all the learning managing systems that we founded to eventually use them to this project. We had a problem because in the main learning managing systems, the main entity is the courses for a teacher. And generally, a course is a closed space. You have a folder to put some documents, some links, you have some tools to build some exercise and stuff like this. But it's quite difficult and sometimes impossible to share your contents you built in one course to another course. And we have some teachers which have several courses, for example, 5 or 6 courses for the same teacher, and he has to duplicate all these contents in the different course spaces. So it's not very useful, and there were not content version control neither. So for this project, we work in a different way. We create another entity. The entity was called the subject. For example, computing science or statistics science. And all the contents made by teachers is not anymore in the course space, it's in the subject space. So all the courses are linked to a subject. All teachers are collaborators in the same space. And each content that each teacher is created can directly be shared with the other teacher of the other course, which are quite linked to the subject. And one course can be linked to several subjects. For example, the first one here, SBOB 324, is in fact a course of bioinformatics. So it's use some computing and statistics and sometimes biology. So it can link, the teacher can link his course to several subjects to be able to use the content that other teachers are sharing with him. And another stuff which quite useful, it's inside the platform. You can create several institutions which are hosting several courses. Here in an example, at the University of Namur, we work with the high school of Louvain-Hainaut, and the courses of this high school can be linked to the subject inside the same platform. The user can be synchronized by LDAP server, etc. So in the home page, it looks like this. This is the home page of the platform. You can see the list of the courses of 2 subjects here. It's in French because it's a French-speaking university, but it's not very important for this presentation. So you can see biology, animal biology as the first subject in front of the red dot, and the biostatistics as the second row. And you can see that the courses here are from the high school, and all these ones are from the University of Namur, and all these contents are shared. The second main concept is a distinction between questions, surveys, and instance of surveys. If you take a list of questions inside a subject, for example, question 1 version 1.1, question 2 version 1.2, because they are control version, you can create a survey. A survey is just a list of selected questions to use in quite situation, but when you share your surveys, you have to pay attention that some teachers who may want to deliver the survey to their students in different conditions. For example, here are two examples. The first one wanted to let the students access the question one by one on the screen, and he let the question accessed on public access on his course. And another one may wanted to deliver the questions after an authentication and only on paper. So on the screen, it's like this. This is a question on screen. You have all the details, the context, the questions, the propositions, and a lot of other stuff. For example, degrees of certainty that you can associate it to your answer. And here is a screen when you have the questions on paper. Students receive a printed paper with the questions on it, and the number which identified the order in which the questions are put to not allow them to copy-paste the grid of the next student. And there is a version control of the question. So if someone actually now changes the question 7, which is switches from version 1.1 to version 1.2, the teacher we have created the survey can decide if it synchronizes the question to the latest stable version or not. And it's the same for the instance. So each teacher which uses the questions decide himself if he takes the last version of the question or not. For example, here, the survey has been synchronized and the instance ones also, but the teacher here preferred to use the last version of the question, but it's his own choice. And when you edit a question, you have a box over there which lists all the surveys and the instance where your question is used. And if I updated this version, which is 1.2, it will become 1.3, and all the area here will become checkbox. And with selecting the different checkbox, I can synchronize all the surveys or surveys instance, for example. And we need to have more than one user authenticated simultaneously on the same browser, because sometimes we didn't have some place enough or computer enough for all the students, but also sometimes on the student space you have only one computer and you have some pals and you want your friends to work with you. But if in a classical learning managing system, only one of them can log into the platform, so only one account will be linked to the answer they record. So we wanted each student to work on same computer. So take an example. Here is a student well known, which is Harry Potter, logged in the Gryffindor house during an exercise late at night, and he started because his friends are not there. But Hermione and Ron are coming from a Quidditch match, so it said, okay, no problem, I will invite you in my session. Here you can put your login and password, and when 3 of them are logged in, all the form is multiplied, all the fields are multiplied by the numbers of logged user in this window of the browser, so they can choose their own answer. They are not forced to have a common decision of the answer to record to the one and only which is logged in. The feedback are quite classical to the students. There is a detail here of the points win or lose at each questions. When your answer is incorrect, you have a red box and a justification, also a green box if it's correct. And you can choose to see the justification. First of all, the justification was always displayed, but the students ask us to hide it because it says we wanted to retry by ourselves without having information of why we have the wrong answer. We want to learn, so please hide this box of justifications and let it be displayed only on demand. And they can consult their results and compare their answer to the distribution of answer of other students of the same groups or same sections. And it can be set it by the teacher. For example, here, the student here are answered the I've selected answer 3, but the corrected was a 5, and you can see that is part of the 10% of the students we have the wrong answer, which is quite bad. Sometimes we have the wrong answer, but you can see that the major part of the students are also wrong, which is less important. And there is a tool for collaboration between students. They can write their own correction for the exercise and decide if this correction is in read-only for them, shared in read-only for the other students, or shared in read and write permissions. And for the feedback for the teacher, it's quite more complex. So I will not detail all the stuff here, but for a teacher who is quite aware about edgemetrics, he will find a lot of information to judge the quality of his questions, the quality of his survey, the fact that did the students had learned something regarding to the results of the questions, etc. And there is a lot of export of files for the R scripts to analyze this further and building some reports for authorities, for example. Regarding to the code is in procedural PHP. Procedural because we wanted to the colleagues to put the end into the code, and we judged that the oriented object was quite sometimes more complex for non-professional developers. The templates is engined by Smarty. Ajax is based on prototypes and Scriptaculous. And the database are in MySQL, in MyASM engine for the same reason, because we work a lot with emerging countries, and we wanted small institutions to be able to host the application on quite basic server, on the basic offers of the host of the country. So when we started this project, DB was not offered everywhere. Regarding the license, it's a European Union public license, which a public license which has been made by the European Union to allow the institutions of the European Union to publish open source code, and it's translated in all the language of the countries of the European Union and quite well adapted to the European Union laws. Actually, the project is hosted on SourceForge, and this version quite stable. It's actually used by 2 universities in Belgium, which represents, depending of the year, between 1,000 to 3,000 users per year. So it's quite stable, but I let it in pre-alpha because I still thinking that it's missing important functionalities like an installer, like a more precise permission control for the teacher regarding to the contents. And more question types. Actually, there is only multiple choice questions with unique answers. We wanted to add some multiple choice questions with multiple answers, open questions, fill in the holes and all like this. Actually, the interface is only in French, but English file is in progress, normally for the next release, which will occur in 1 or 2 weeks. So like any other projects which are presenting in Lightning tools, help is wanted. First of all, for share ideas and experience, because actually it's only me, myself, and I which are in this project, and sometimes I want to share experiences made by other users on other platforms, the same platform, on using MCQs or not into teaching or in programming. Help is also needed in coding, for cleaning and new functionalities as usual, taming, translation, documentation, everything is will be welcome. So you can contact me at grégoire.vincke@gmail.com or grégoireving.be, and I will hand my presentation by some acknowledgement for my director of research and all my colleagues, which helped me during this research, and mainly the NAML Linux user groups, which is also involved here in Fosdem, and the Fosdem for the presentation sites. If you have some questions, I'm free for that. Any questions? Yep. Size of the code base. How many lines of code? Size of the code base. Good questions. Around 40,000 lines. I tried to calculate it without the libraries imported for other projects, but it's between 40 and 50,000 lines of PHP code. but maybe can be reduced if it's more cleaner in the syntax. But other questions?
Do you think you will integrate this in Cloud9 or
Oh, the question is open for Cloud9 because Cloud9 is at a period of its life it will quite shift between technologies, between homemade PHP scripts to Symfony, for example, for the next version. But it's in project. It's one of the main goals we had for the future. It's to build a module for imported the tools in Moodle or Cloud9, not only Cloud9, but Moodle or other learning managing system. But we tried, as it was for research, at the first step, we want to be master of the code and the behaviors. So it has been made the choice to build a application which is working alone. But help for building modules will be very, very welcome.
Enjoy. I'm sure you've been looking